Another way that your body helps fight off disease, another line of defense right here, are the materials or these substances produced by the cell. One of these is interferons. When a cell becomes attacked, when it gets attacked by a virus, and a virus is a piece of genetic material, RNA or DNA, and then it has this protein capsid. It's not a capsule, they call it a capsid. Sometimes it has a membrane around that, sometimes it doesn't. But when this moves in, it tricks the cell into bringing it in. And when it brings it in, it takes over the cell. It basically just shuts the cell down, takes over its machinery, and starts making virus stuff, virus particles, more RNA or more DNA, and then the proteins and such to assemble to make the capsid. And then as they leave the cell, as the virus leaves the cell, it usually kills the cell and all. The cells, when invaded by this, when attacked by this, will release these chemicals, these interferons. And these interferons help slow the release of the virus, and then they go to the other surrounding cells in the general area and tell those cells to and help those cells to protect themselves, to kind of prevent the entrance of the virus and all. So it's not 100% foolproof. It works. We're here. It works and such. But it's a second line of defense. Once a virus, and these interferons work against viruses, once a virus has gotten into the cell, it's a kind of a way to help protect the cell or the rest of the body and all. You also have what's known as a complement system. And these are proteins which are found in the plasma, produced by the liver and such, and they're all in an inactive form. This is a very powerful way to help rid the body of an infectious disease, an infectious organism. And so, but it's very powerful. It can cause a lot of problems and such if it's left to go. And so, you start off, let's say you have 1 through 9. The first one has to be recognized and then activated. And when it becomes activated, it then goes and tells the second one, and then it activates. It's a cascade. It's like a waterfall of events and such. Eventually, it'll produce a substance or be able to take on this invader and destroy it, or at least make it more susceptible to your other your white blood cells and such. Another thing that you produce is transferrin. Iron is a necessary mineral in the body. You need it for blood cell production and such. Bacteria need it as well. And so if you remove the iron from the system, the bacteria don't have it. So you actually slow bacterial growth. When this is active and when it's removed, you don't have the iron. You're not making the red blood cells. You're not doing this, that, and the other. You're not making ATP. You feel you feel down. You feel sick and all. So, but that's something that your body does to help with microbes. Another thing that you'll produce are these white blood cells known as natural killer cells. They're a type of lymphocyte, and they're found in areas where when they are shown something, when it comes in through the blood, they attack and they kill. Bacteria, fungus, they have these walls, these cell walls, and these and such. And these natural killer cells have the ability to poke holes in that. And it's because of the osmotic pressures, when you poke holes in those walls and those membranes and all, the water then, the fluid from the plasma, from your body fluids, will move into that cell much more quickly than it can leave, causing that cell to swell and then to rupture. They'll also bind, and another way they can bind to this cell, this bacterial cell, and then cause changes within that cell that will lead that cell to destroy itself and all. Your white blood cells eat things, so phagocytosis is a second line of defense. And when we look at our different types of white blood cells, the phagocytes, the neutrophils and the eosinophils, those are both the granular white blood cells. The monocytes are one of the agranulars. The two that you don't see right here are the basophils and the lymphocytes. But the neutrophils are the most abundant, and they will be at the site where the invader is coming in, and they will start the whole process and such. Eosinophils, once they'll show up and such, but there has to be an antigen antibody there, and then they respond to that. And the B cells, remember the B cells, the type of lymphocyte will produce the antibody, and then you have your types of dendritic cells, which will present the antigen, or just the antigen is there. So your monocytes, these are the ones that when in the circulatory system, on that backside of the capillary where the basement membrane is missing in some areas, they sneak out through that act of diapedesis, get into the interstitial space and wander around. They will also end up in lymphatic tissues and in other areas and all. We'll see specialized ones in the lungs and the liver. You have them in the stratum spinosum of your skin and such, and also but they help remove foreign invaders and all that. You'll see them in the spleen, so they help remove foreign invaders, foreign particles, worn out blood cells and such, and all. So once these phagocytes have seen something, or how do they get there, or how do they get rid of it? They have to be attracted. Damaged cells, like in your epithelium, like if you get a cut or a scrape, an abrasion and such, or if you have a break in the vessel, the cells will produce or release histamine in a large concentration. Then it diffuses throughout the body, and these neutrophils, these other phagocytes, are attracted to that. They go toward the increasing concentration. That's known as chemotaxis. Once there, they stick, or they cause parts of the antigen or parts of the microbe to stick to them. And then they're able to bring it in, to engulf it, to phagocytize it. And once inside, they attach their lysosomes to it, break it down, digest it, and eat it, and remove it. So another one of these lines of defense is inflammation. And when you have any type of tissue damage, for whatever reason, you're going to have inflammation. You can see some of the signs and symptoms right there. You've all experienced that in one way or another somewhere. The redness and the heat that's due to increased blood flow. The swelling, that's the blood flow plus the fluids, the edema, that pushes on pain receptors, or you have torn tissues, pain receptors and such. And if you have enough inflammation into a area, into a structure, you can actually lose the ability to use that, like a hand or a leg or an ankle. This inflammation helps get the tissue prepared for the repair. So any foreign material there, it kind of flushes it out, washes it out, dilutes it out. Any microbes that might be there, any toxins and such. Having it in that area, the inflammation in that area, also helps prevent microbes from leaving that area and going to other places. So this inflammation, this swelling, begins with the vessels dilating. Histamine has a lot to do with that, if you will. And by dilating, you get more blood into it, more blood, more immune cells, more of the cytokines, more of the other materials needed and such. And it happens very quickly and such. Damaging, increasing the fluid in that space, increasing the pressure, or other physical damage to the nerve fibers, maybe like an irritant or a toxic substance, will cause the pain. And also the damaged cells then also release chemicals and such, and that also causes the increase in the swelling or the edema, which then leads to more pain. Once it's dilated, once it's like that, once that dilation has occurred, your white blood cells, these phagocytes, move to this area. there's some there. I mean, it's not instantaneous, but they move there. And the most numerous one is the ones that shows up first, and then the least numerous, they show up later on. So uh, they show up there. They do what they can. They fight off the infection. If they have to, they will actually encapsulate it with a connective tissue wall, and then you'll have what's known as an abscess and all. After the fact, after everything's been removed, then the repair can start. And that's what you're looking forward to. That's what you're hoping will occur, and then you'll get back to your normal function. One of the ways that it helps fight this off is with fever. Fever is not always a bad thing. Fever actually intensifies or helps with the interferons job. The fever actually takes the bacteria out of their optimal growth temperature, so it slows down or inhibits their growth. And then the fever increases metabolism, and such, and so you have an increase in cellular activity, which actually increases or helps speed up the repair.